Welcome back to another Exploded Figure review. Today we are looking at the Figura Obscura Jersey Devil. This is new from Four Horsemen Studios. Pre-order went up, not pre-order, but the in-stock sale went up about a month ago, and they just got them in and started shipping them out. So excited to get into this thing. The packaging, first off, looks really cool. You've got this newspaper article on the side here. Really like that. And then when you open this up, you've got the figure inside. You've got kind of that same packaging that was on the outside here. And then you have this really cool kind of display background. Little like wintry looking theme. Got some kind of stone wall there that looks like it's, been there a while, kind of some parts falling off of it, some trees in the background. So really cool background. If you don't have a dio for some of these pieces, the Figura Obscura always has something like this that you can kind of put behind your figure just to make it kind of look like a cool scene. So love that background. Love the, the outside packaging. This just looks amazing here. Beautiful work. And then for the figure itself, here's what we've got. We're going to go ahead and get this open and take a look at the figure first, and then we'll do the exploded thing and kind of go from there. So let me get this out of the package and we'll be right back.
You best get ready, because now it's time for Art by Akerman.
All right, welcome back. Just to kind of show you what's inside there. You've got the kind of inner lining on the box here is a kind of map of the reported sightings of the Jersey Devil. So you can see all the little red dots on the map are, places where he was supposedly seen. You got some information on the Leeds family, very tied in with the lore of the Jersey Devil. So yeah, pretty cool stuff here. So the figure itself does come with this booklet here on the Jersey Devil that, you open it up, really well done here by the Horsemen. And then it starts going through that kind of the lore of the Jersey Devil. It's one of these kind of mythical creatures that, has been reported to be seen. There's different reports of how it looks and things like that, and different ideas on like what it actually could be. So yeah, interesting little story here with a lot of visuals for people that don't like to read as much. There's nice pictures. That's for me. Within the package, the clamshell for the figure, this is the primary one. You've got a couple of the bone weapons here. His tail is along this side here. The figure itself, the bonus open mouth head, and then that skull that comes with it. And then in the under clamshell that goes underneath of that, you have got the base, which you can see the back of the base here kind of goes around to the back side there with the screws. And then you have those really cool wings that have that like root beer barrel color translucency to them. So very nice. So I like to have this look of the clamshell in case I ever need to get this back in there. So this is the moment where you stop this and you pause it and you go, this is what it looks like if you need to get it back in the package. All right, so I'm gonna get it out of the package completely. We'll take a look at articulation and just like playing around with it, and then we'll explode it and do all that fun stuff. Okay, we're back with the Jersey Devil. Here's how it looks like out of package with the wings and tail in and everything. First thing I noticed when I got this out of the package is that the legs are very long if they're extended. When you start bending them, kind of the digigrade legs forward and back, then it looks kind of along the lines of this another Mythic Legion or Cosmic Legion figure. But when they're straight, they're just really, really long. So I'll have to see. They may compare to like the Greys, the Gray aliens from Cosmic, but interesting that how long that they were. I wasn't expecting that. He's just a very lanky figure. The wings look very cool. They've got that like root beer look to them, the translucency, and so really awesome look there. We'll have some gripes that we'll talk about on the way that the wings connect. I really wish they would kind of redesign that for a little bit more stability, maybe some sort of ratcheted joint or something, maybe a longer peg, but we'll talk about that. The tail attaches similar to some of the other tails that we've seen recently with like the Monkey King, Turpiculi, things like that. Pops in back here. It is a bendy wire tail, has that kind of devilish fork design on the back. And it does come with two kind of open gripping or open like expressive hands. It does have two gripping hands that it comes with as well for holding those weapons. And we'll show you all those parts as we get into it. And then this other piece right here that is kind of a first, where we don't have, like a waist armor or anything like that. It really kind of covers this section and makes it look like a bare transition. I know like in the McFarlane world, they kind of refer to this as like the diaper piece, which is not a real attractive term, but that's kind of what they call it. It is a little bit softer plastic, and it helps kind of cover that transition without having to armor up this character. So that's the overall look, and we're going to explode this thing, make it go boom, see what all parts we got. So let's take a look. Okay, so here is the exploded view of the Jersey Devil. We've got a lot of stuff going on, so we'll get right into it. Starting with the closed mouth head, you have this one here, and it had a few things glued to it. So one thing was the horns. So you can see there's like a hole there. You've got the key here that kind of goes into it, and then that just had a little bit of dab of glue. As far as I can tell, the horns on this head and the other head are the exact same, but we'll look at that in a second. So there's it with the horns in, and then you had these little fangs that were glued in right here. So those are able to be pulled out as well. Once again, not one of those pieces that's really meant to come out, but with a little bit of work, you can get that to come out. So if you wanted to, take those out for some reason or use them on something else, that is a piece that is removable. So there's that head. Normally it would have the fangs in it. We'll look at that at the end when we put all this back together with the fangs in. Going into the other head, you have this one here. This is the open mouth kind of fierce head. Once again, horns that go in here, keyhole. They just have a little bit of glue. They pop in there. If I'm to show you, like this is the one on the right side, and here's the one from the other one, from the closed mouth head. You can see, looks the exact same. The keyhole might be, yeah, it does look like the keyhole's a little bit different, or the key notch. So, but as far as like the horns itself, it looks like all the details are the same. So, but once again, just kind of pops in like this. And then this one would go into this side. So, and then the other piece that came out of this head was this tongue. So this tongue is a separate piece that's kind of glued down here in the middle. And with a little bit of heat, that does come out. Now on this one, the teeth, none of the teeth appear to be glued in. So all of these, like lower teeth, the upper teeth, all of these fangs appear to be part of the main sculpt, which is kind of interesting because they are a little bit soft, but the whole head is kind of in that same, like you can see like the bottom jaw here is kind of flexible. So it's all a very flexible material. But everything seems to be one piece with the exception of the tongue. And then obviously the horns are glued in. So, and then just as far as looking at the paint job, you can see he's got those red eyes, the inside of the mouth, very glossy pink, and, kind of a dirty white fangs there. So interesting. Going into the body, I think we've heard this a few times, but basically the Frankenstein creature body without the stitching. So it's a longer torso, kind of lean in the middle. You do have that articulated neck that goes back and forth. Did notice early on, like just with popping the wings in when I first got it, as well as the arms, you can see some of the white in there where some of that like paint is kind of rubbing off. So just be aware of that if you're taking apart this thing or putting it back together a bunch of times, you may start seeing some of that color wear a little bit. So then going into the arms, I believe these are the same as the Frankenstein arms as well, just without any stitching and whatnot. Going into the forearm, which is a bare forearm. So, and then that goes into the hand. Now, the hands that come on this thing are the open kind of expressive hands. So that's what is on these. You get 2 of those, which are the horizontal joints, so going this way. And then it also comes with 2 gripping hands. And the gripping hands are also horizontal joints. So all horizontal joints, 2 gripping, 2 expressive. Then going into the bottom part of the figure, you've got kind of a standard pelvis piece. Does have boom boom hole, which go for the tail that we'll talk about here in a bit. But otherwise, everything else appears to be standard. Looks like the standard peg size as well. It's not like one of the longer ones or anything like that. And then that goes into this new piece. Now, I don't know if they've got a name for this. I know in the McFarlane world, they kind of call this the diaper piece. So it's not very flattering, but it's kind of what it is. It like goes over top of this. And this is a brand new piece. Normally on any sort of Legions or Figura Obscura, you're going to have that like waist covering that kind of bridges that gap between the pelvis and the, the upper of the torso. This is the first time that we're having something like this where it's completely bare. It's very interesting the way that it looks once you get it together. Let me take this pelvis out of here. It looks like this. So because of the way it's sculpted, even the break here kind of looks like just another row of the muscles, like the abs. So it doesn't break the illusion too terribly. It still looks pretty good there. And then as far as the details, you can see all the little fur details sculpted. On the back, you've got that kind of round opening here, which is for the tail that we'll look at here in a second. But really like this piece. I think this is, shows us kind of what may be to come with some other, whether it's creatures or, barbarians or whatever. It'd be cool to kind of get some pieces like this. So then the upper leg on there, the kind of the hip joint, appears to be new because it's basically the same kind of style as our normal hip joints that we would have, but it's got all this fur detail on it that's sculpted in. So not much different than what we've seen in the past. Easily a swappable piece with other 1.0s, but you've got that new fur texture. Now, this is where it kind of gets interesting. So this is going into the upper leg, into the double joint. Now, one thing that I was worried about here, and I think some other customizers were worried about, is are you going to be able to take this apart and customize it with the double joint? And the answer is not really. So I have pulled these apart, but the way that I did it was I actually sliced this joint here, which you can maybe see. I don't have it heated up right now, so I can't pull it apart, but you can see that there is a slice in it right here. So what I did was, while this was together, I heated the heck out of it and slid this disc over to the one side as far as I could, and then took my X-Acto knife and carefully sliced down the middle. Now, when I go to put this together, what I'm gonna have to do is heat the heck out of this thing again. I'm gonna have to pry that apart, put it around this disc and close it up. And I may even put a dab of glue in there. And then I'll have to kind of heat it up to make sure that it kind of gets back to its original shape around this, and then let it cool. So, as far as the way that this works, it does have, a disc on this upper side, so it bends that way, and then this disc goes into the lower leg, or the upper part of the lower leg, because there's another section we're going to look at here in a second, that allows it to come back. So you can get like all the way back to where he can basically kick his own rear end. But yeah, this is how that looks. So this would go around that disc, and then there is a separate kneecap that is glued in here. So I did peel this off, and you can, like, based on the keyhole in here and the peg, you could flip it, but when you flip it, you can tell like this is off, right? Because just the way that it lines up. So it will fit in there, but it only looks correct the one way. So just FYI here. And really, it's just a little tiny opening there, put a little dab of glue, and that'll pop back on. I saw somebody in the cabal had already kind of had one of these pop off and was like, you know, getting frustrated with it. And all it takes is really a dab of glue, and this will pop back on there. So I use the Loctite gel control. This is, you know, it's got a little smaller kind of applicator tip. And this is kind of my go-to, doesn't get everywhere and all that kind of stuff. So when I go to put this back together, I'm gonna heat this up, pull that peg apart, put it around this disc, and then glue the kneecap back in place. And then we'll show at the end, we should still have full range of motion and all that. So you can take it apart, but it requires you to, you know, basically cut into this peg, because the peg, as you can see, is attached on both sides. There's not like an opening to where there's no, you know, like thing where you can pull this out to where it's like temporarily attached in there. It is permanently attached on both sides. And just for, you know, the sake of argument, on the other leg, I did it the other way. So as you saw on that left leg, I separated it on the bottom part. On this one, I separated it at the top part, because I didn't want to give you guys any false information. I wanted to make sure that if I'm telling you that you can't take this apart without cutting it, I wanted to make sure that that was correct. So I separated on both ends. Same thing here. I heated the heck out of this, slid this over to the one side as far as I could, and then sliced right here towards the middle, so that I could get this out of there. So, and on this one, same thing. It's permanently attached on both sides. There's nothing that pops out on that. So if you do want to take these double joints apart, you're going to have to use some sort of cutting tool, X-Acto knife, whatever, in order to get those apart. So people were hoping that you wouldn't have to do that. Sorry. And then going into the lower leg, instead of having like a normal ankle joint, you have this thing here. So this pops into this lower part of the leg here. If I can get it in, probably not going to be able to without heat. But basically this goes in here like this, and then this pops into the foot. So, you know, it goes like this. Now, you know, it works essentially the same as what an ankle joint would, but instead of just having like a peg here, a joint, and then another peg, you have this little extra piece here that helps with the digigrade, you know, part of this, to where it kind of, the leg goes forward, then back, then forward again, right? So that's kind of what that looks like. Obviously, it'll, you know, we'll cut out the gaps when we heat this up and put it all back together, but it essentially looks like that. And I'll go grab a standard ankle joint to see, but I believe that this hoof will just plug right in here. But all of this is new sculpted stuff. So, okay, so grabbed a regular ankle joint, and I was wrong. This hole is way bigger here than what the standard ankle joint is. So this is kind of what a standard ankle joint would look like in there. Obviously, that's not going to work. This is just much larger. So just kind of by comparison, this is the one that goes into that foot, and that's your standard one. And then as far as the other side, you can kind of see how that looks different. When we were up on the torso, one thing I failed to mention was this neck collar piece. So this goes over top of the torso, It has this barbell joint in here for the head. So the head very much is kind of forward. So if you put this on like a standard like neck, it's going to be kind of looking up in the air. Because if you look at the side of the head, you can tell the peg really goes in from the side instead of from underneath. So a little bit different connection point there. As far as this collar piece goes, it just really kind of slides over this. It's a pressure fit, and yeah, I was able to get it without heating it. But so once you get it on there, you can see there's holes in the kind of neck collar piece for the wings to go through. The problem with this is that the wings typically have a smaller peg anyways, like smaller than what I think is really needed for the weight on it. And now trying to get that through the collar piece and through the back, it makes it to where this can potentially fall out. The best thing that I've heard to do with this is to just heat the ever-loving crap out of this and then kind of force the wings in, hold them in place, and then, let it kind of set around it. And then hopefully it'll hold for you. So when we go to put this back together, that's what we're going to do. A lot of times I will use a heat gun. With this, I'm going to actually use some boiling water. Because if you really need to heat it up, like internally, it's not just an outer level thing, but you need to like heat deep inside. I find that boiling water will do that a lot better. So I've got one of those kind of hot water kettle things, and I'll just heat some of that up, pour it into a measuring cup, put these pieces in here, and then take the wings and just shove them in here and just hold them in place until it solidifies. So that's going to be the plan on this. We'll let you know if that works as far as those wings staying in place. Right now, let me pull this back apart. There you go. So then going into the wings, they do have a separation, so you can make them smaller. So if you've ever seen the Malfar wings, they're basically the same part here. They've just got a little tiny section that comes off of here instead of this big wing. So, there's no difference in this part from the Malafar wings to like the Erythir wings. So this is really kind of like the Erythir wing here. Obviously, it's quite a bit different because we do have this translucent kind of brownish, root beer color looking thing. And so if you get some light behind it, like wherever you have this displayed, you can see, the light will shine through there and creates this really cool, like membrane look to it. So yeah, pretty neat. I think that the way that they did this as far as the translucency is awesome. I think the look is amazing. I think the functionality of this peg really could use a redesign at this point. Something ratcheted or something with even just a longer peg. It would require them to kind of change up what they do typically now on the torsos because, the holes on the back are meant to fit pauldrons and, so you're trying to have swappability amongst parts and stuff. So if all of a sudden the holes go deeper so that you can have a longer peg to hold better, that changes kind of the cross functionality of all these pieces. So I don't know what the answer is on how to make these hold better. I think it's just maybe time for an entire redesign of the holes in the back and the pegs on these, unless they could find some other way of doing it that holds better. So I could tell you that like with my Erythir, I actually have the wings glued in place, like super glued in place in order to make them stay. So yeah, so that's what we got here. So it looks awesome. We'll try that heat trick with the hot water and see if that works to kind of hold these in place. Then you've got a few extra things here. So first off is the tail. It does have a separate piece here that is attached, but if you heat it up, you can pop this off. And this goes into that boom boom hole. So if we grab that pelvis, this just kind of pops in here like that. And then that other little kind of diaper piece that we were talking about slides in over top of this. And you can see that where that cutout was that we were looking at earlier goes right around where the tail's coming out, okay? And then for the actual tail itself, you've got this guy here, which is really cool look. It's got that, kind of fork on the back side of it, little trident looking thing. It is, got the bendable wire in it, so you can get, a bunch of movement out of this however you want. The bottom side on this does have like the holes in it, which I think is they have to do when they're manufacturing this. So when you're posing it, they're really super tiny, so you're probably not going to see it anyway. But you just want to try to pose it to where those holes are facing downward so that, you're not seeing those. But yeah, really cool looking tail. I like it. Love the sculpt. Love the bendability. And then the end here is really cool looking. So, and then you also have a couple other accessory pieces here. So it comes with this skull, and then it comes with a couple bone weapons. So you got this one here, this one here. Both of these came with Thraxians from Cosmic Legion. A little bit different paint job here, but just kind of pretty brutal looking bone weapons. So, there really isn't a lot in the lore as far as, accessories that they could have included with it. So I think that was just, something that they already had in the library. They're like, hey, let's just throw some bone weapons with it. So that really is the entire thing. We're gonna go into fast motion, but there's two parts that I wanna show in regular time. One is the double jointed legs, putting those back together. And then the other one is going to be attaching the wings. Those two I wanna show in real time. So we're gonna go into fast motion, do everything but the double jointed legs and the wings, and then we will be right back. So here we go with some fast motion. Double jointed legs. So I've got the left one here where I've got the kind of the thigh, the disc is still attached, and then the upper part of the lower leg that is in the water right now. So I'm going to pull that out. And so now it's heated up with the hot water. You can see I can stretch this apart. And so I am going to stretch this and pop that into place and try to work this in here to where the disc is inside of it. Now, I did not glue that together. I just put it back in there, but as firm as this gets, I think that's gonna be enough to hold it because I sliced it towards the middle. So we're gonna see. I'm gonna let this cool like this, and then we'll see if it doesn't feel like it's holding the way that I need it to, then I'll open it back up and put a dab of glue in there. Okay, so the other one I've got, the disc is still attached to the upper part of the lower leg, and now I need the thigh piece that's gonna go on here. So pull that out of the water. It's now heated up. You can see I can stretch this apart, and then I'm just gonna try to slide this disc in there, work it. I wanna get that peg inside the disc on both sides. Kind of squeeze that back together. And once again, I didn't glue this or anything. I just, sliced the peg, heated it up, pulled it apart, and then pulled it apart to slide it back in. I think what I'm gonna do is actually heat this up a little bit more, and then just squeeze it together, and try to hold that until it solidifies. So I'm gonna drop both of these back in there, let them heat up for a second. So first I'm grabbing the left leg, and this is the one where we did the bottom part. So I'm just gonna squeeze this together tightly, work that joint back and forth, and just kind of hoping that that helps hold its shape without me having to glue that peg back in place. So I'll fast motion this while I hold this to cool. Okay, so there we go. That it's pretty well cool. It does look like it's a little bit of a gap here, but it feels like it's still got good range of motion and articulation. It doesn't feel too loose. So I think we're gonna go with that for now. Let me grab the other one out, the right leg. Now on this right leg, it was the upper thigh piece that we cut. So I'm gonna squeeze that back together and hold that. And then I'll fast motion it while this kind of cools down. Okay, so that's pretty well cool. Once again, still have pretty good range of motion. It doesn't feel too loose. If anything, I could always throw some kikis in there, but I feel like that's probably gonna work without actually having to glue that peg back together. So we're gonna try that. We'll see once this is all together. The other part we wanted to do was the wings. So let me show you that real well. Yeah, I'll do that and let this dry a little bit, and then we'll put those kneecaps on. So first I'm gonna take one of the wings and heat it up in some of the water. This piece here that goes into the wing, it's a pretty tight fit. So you have to heat it up pretty well. So that's why I wanna put this in the warm water real quick. All right, we'll try that. Pretty flexible. Let's see if we can get that in there. Nope, I think that's gonna need a little bit longer. So I'm gonna put that one in there. I'm actually gonna put the second wing in there as well. We'll get both of those going and let that heat up a bit. While we do that, I guess I'll work on this kneecap. So this is the left leg, and here's the left kneecap. If you ever look inside, you'll see like the letters, like there's an L there for left. So the kneecap doesn't have one, but I made sure to keep them apart when I was doing this, so I knew where the left one was versus the right one. So this is the correct way for that kneecap. So what I'm gonna do is just put a little tiny dab of glue in there. You wanna make sure you don't go too much. We did just have an issue with the head that I'll show you here in a second. So, all right, and then we're just gonna pop that in there. You wanna make sure when you're doing this that you're not getting that into the joint, the glue, right? Because this kneecap is right near both of these two joints on this part, you know, the thigh and then the upper part of the lower leg. So you don't want that glue getting in there. So you want to make sure that you're really careful on this part here. So got that. Now I've got the right leg. Once again, there's the R inside. The kneecap doesn't have one, but once again, I kept it separate. So is that right? No, it doesn't look like it. Doesn't fit right. So let me turn it around. Like this. There we go. Now we look good. Okay, so that's where it's gonna go. So let me pop this off. Put the tiniest bit of glue in here. Just a little bit. Don't need much. And then put it back on. Okay. One little tip that I've learned is that if you use parchment paper and there is any glue that leaks out, it won't stick to the parchment paper and it won't stick to your skin either. But I was pretty careful not to use more glue than what I needed to on this. So don't think I really need the parchment paper, but if you ever are getting stuck to things, like it's tiny things that you're trying to press them together, just know that parchment paper can help you out there. So it looks like both of those knees are attached. Let's go take a look at these wings. So here's this one, pretty flexible. Let's see if we can get it in there. So this is this one. I might have to do this off camera because it's a little difficult. See, it even still just being really difficult. I'm gonna have to hit this with the heat gun. So let me do that real quick. Huh? Oh, okay. I know I've talked in the past about like ankle joints being one of those pieces that you really don't want to have to take apart unless you have to. This part of the armature of the wing to the main wing is another one of those that's a little bit difficult to deal with. So unless you need to take apart, I wouldn't. I'm gonna go ahead and just heat this one up because I know I'm gonna need it. Okay, I've heated that up pretty good. So we'll try to pop this part in. It is not the easiest. Once again, if you don't need to do this, I would advise not doing this. But when you're doing exploded review, you got to explode stuff. So there we go. So now we've got those in there. Those wings are both back together. And now what we're going to do is heat this back part up so that we can, get the wings in there. First, I'll attach these legs back on. So this is the right. So and the left. Sorry, what I was saying is you can see when those legs are straightened out how long they are. They're pretty massive. So yeah, they're big mamma jammas when they're not bent. So now we're gonna put this upper part into the water, try to heat this up quite a bit so that we can get those wings in there. The water's still pretty warm. So I'm gonna let that heat for a second and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. I just took that out of the water and let's try to get these wings in here. So here is this one. Got that in. Trying to work quickly. Get the second one in. And I'm just gonna kind of hold them both in there as tight as I can. And hopefully that forms around it and will hold it enough to keep it in place. Okay. So got that done. They seem to be holding pretty well. I probably wouldn't mess with them too much because just the weight of them and everything will start to make those pop out. So I'd just be careful with it. And I'll attach that head, get the tail on, and then I will be right back. Okay, so we got them back together. We'll take a look at kind of articulating them here in a bit. I did put some kikis in the legs just to kind of make sure that we're nice and tight since we opened up that peg and pulled that apart. So I did want to show you something I messed up when I was putting this back together. So I had too much glue in this when I went to put this horn back in, and so some of it started to seep out. I grabbed a alcohol swab and tried to like get off as much as I could like while it was happening to try to prevent you know, some of this excess residue, but it still kind of got on there, and I can sit there and wipe it like this now, but when it dries it's still going to, you know, show that as being white. So one thing that I did hear though is that you can use WD-40 and get that off. So I'm going to put some WD-40 in my little fidget popper. So let me move him to the side. I'm gonna put some here in the little fidget popper, grab a little Q-tip and try to rub some of these areas where the white is at. So let me get this nice and dry real quick, get some WD-40 in here. I'll be right back. Okay, so I dried that, so you know, when it was wet with the alcohol, it looked like it was pretty clean, and then once it dries, you see the white residue again. So here we go, we've got WD-40. Just gonna squirt a little bit in here. And then we're going to take a little cotton swab. We're gonna grab one of these really tiny ones here. This is a Tamiya cotton swab. We're just gonna get some of that WD-40 on it. There we go. All right. And I'm just gonna try to wipe some of this off. Thing to remember with this residue is when it's wet, pretty much from anything, water, alcohol, anything, it's gonna look like it's gone. But then when it dries, typically it comes back. This WD-40 is supposed to prevent that. So while it looks good now, the real test will be once it dries, seeing if it stays gone. Or is it just one of those that it's gone while it's wet? So. Looks like there's one piece there that either the part of the cotton swab or there's just like a little bit of excess glue that's just like stuck. So let me see if I can get that off with the X-Acto knife. There we go. Okay. So let me put some heat on this and see if that white comes back. All right, I think that did it. I mean, there's still a little bit of white that I'm gonna have to try this, like do a little bit more, but the areas that I got, it did not come back. So there you go. New little tip for us is WD-40 on glue residue. So just try to get a little bit more of this in here. Some of these tight crevices. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed with that. That is a good little tip. I'll look up who that came from on the Cabal and make sure I credit them here. You know, credit where credit's due. But yeah, that's a nice little tidbit there. WD-40 gets rid of glue residue. So, all right. As far as the Jersey Devil, here we go. The wings are attached. You can see there is a little bit of give to it. So I wouldn't like mess with it too much. But, you know, we did get those wings in there. We got the legs back together. I do have a little bit of Kiki's in there, still kind of working its magic. So I'll let that do its thing overnight, and then we'll come back and see how the legs work and see if, you know, the slicing and dicing I did on the disc, if that, you know, ruined this figure, or is that a feasible option if you want to take it apart to customize it. So I'll let this sit overnight, and we'll come back and give you kind of final thoughts on this figure. All right, folks, that's going to do it for the Jersey Devil. After letting the Kiki's dry and everything, the legs are doing really well. No major issues. I would say if I was going to take apart those double jointed legs again, I would probably, if you have to cut one of those posts, I would cut the one on the upper leg rather than the one on the lower leg, because that upper leg it's got a little bit more plastic there. And so when you heat it up and stretch it apart and put that in there, it wants to kind of snap back into place a little bit more. So I would probably do the one on the upper thigh rather than the one on the lower leg. The one on the lower leg's not doing too bad, but it's just it's still holding a pose and everything. It's just a little bit more loose than this one up here. So, you know, once again, you don't have to do this stuff, but if you wanted to take apart those double jointed legs, that's what I would do. Is I would heat up that thigh, push that disc over as far as you can, slice that post down the middle, and then go from there. So other than that, we did get the wings in. You know, I would say the key with that is just to really heat the heck out of this thing. So get some hot water, dunk this thing in there, get that neck, that collar piece and the torso nice and warm, and then try to put both those wings in there at the same time and just hold them in until they stay. At this point, it is, you know, it's holding a pose, it's staying where it needs to. I wouldn't mess with it too much because it's just that little tiny post that's holding that in there. But for now, it is working. You know, as far as the figure itself, I love these wings. As far as the look of them, like the translucency is really cool. That head, I've heard a few other people say this, but I kind of thought in the initial pictures and stuff that the head looked too big, or like it could potentially be too big. But it's really not. Once you get it in hand and you look at it and you see the total figure, it fits in with everything that's going on here. Love the new pieces as far as the sculpted fur and stuff. You know, as much as I don't like the modifications that you have to do in order to take apart the double jointed knee if you wanted to, the fact that we've got the double jointed knee and we've got the extra articulation that gives us that really cool digigrade look is awesome. The tail is cool. And then just the modifications that they made on some of those Frankenstein's creature parts in order to do like the arms and torso. So overall, really cool figure, some really cool parts on there. Hopefully you grabbed one of these because they're gone now. You know, if it's anything like the other Figura Obscura, there may be a retailer one down the road that's a little bit different. They usually change up the colors a little bit. I don't know what they're going to change on this. I don't know how they're going to change it up, but it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. But that is my review on the Jersey Devil. If you have any questions about this figure, let me know in the comments. I try to get to all of the comments and questions that are in there. If you liked this Exploded review, there is a playlist for all of those Exploded reviews on the channel, as well as playlists for all the different things that we do. Thank you for watching. Thank you for, hopefully you are already subscribed. And if you haven't become a member yet, you can do that for $1.99 a month. That makes you eligible for early access to videos, some extra giveaways, as well as a chance to get the Art by Akerman customizing brushes. Every member gets one set shipped for $15. So thank you for watching. Can't wait to see what you guys come up with this Jersey Devil. I'm sure there's going to be some wild, crazy creations. And until next time, keep creating, folks.